Hello, friends, and welcome back to Zeldathon Book Club.
Good evening, everybody.
Glad to have you back, Max, from your quick
Oh, thank you.
trip sabbatical. Not trip, but you
Sabbatical.
traveled somewhere, but then you stayed there. What happened?
Correct. Yeah, I was sorry to miss out last month, and I was hoping that I could even hang out and chat, but there was no internet. There was only boxes
Yeah,
that
that's
weekend.
that's moving for you. That's all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, both back and both ready to talk some more books. Um, Maybe while we're waiting for more people to hop on in, we can start off with our "What have you been reading very recently?" Discussions because I like going over those. Um,
Yes, I've been reading, so I'm thrilled to be able to
yes,
contribute to this.
please tell.
So I have finally been reading a book I've been meaning to for ages. It's called White Teeth by Zadie Smith. And this was her debut novel a few years ago now, but she's put out a couple of other really popular ones since then, Swing Time, and some others. But I had not read anything by her yet. And I didn't really have any preconceived notions of what this book was going into it. Like, all I'd really heard was that this is a good book. And I have really been enjoying it so far. It is a novel set in the UK that. Can you hear that?
A little bit. Was that a plane?
There's something happening below me. It's
You're good.
fine. Don't worry about it. But it's set in the UK. It's about a couple of different immigrant families.
Okay.
One is a woman who's married to an older English man, but she was a first generation immigrant from Jamaica. And the other family were Bengali immigrants, is how they identify, but from the Pakistan region
Okay.
at this point, because it had changed uh, sovereignty. I don't really know.
Right, like
Since
lines have been redrawn, names have
Yeah,
changed.
since they had immigrated. And so it's kind of like a multi-generational novel that follows these men who are both older, the dads, and they both fought in World War II. It's set in the kind of mid to late 80s, early 90s. So it follows them and their teenage children, and really just kind of examines the immigrant experience in the UK from both a first and second generation perspective. And it is really good, just the way that she uses language, especially I hear it in my head voice a lot in the voices of the Bengali people, although Zadie Smith herself is not from that region. She, I think, is biracial, and I don't remember where her family was from.
I could probably Google
But
it.
yeah, the voice that she uses for the Bengali family reminds me so much of Salman Rushdie's voice in his novels, and he's one of my favorite writers. So this book is really speaking to me, and I have really enjoyed actually sitting down and reading a book, because I unpacked my books. I have books here now. I never bothered unpacking them in
Yay!
our last place. Yeah. um
It's a lot of
so
work.
yeah, that's been a joy to me. How about you, Trina? What have you been reading?
I other than the still I'm on like my 24th, 25th, I think, Hercule Poirot audiobook. I
Nice.
will eventually run out of Agatha Christie to listen to.
Oh,
But
she's so much
we're
fun.
not at that point yet. Um I checked out like I have like 4 different books that I'm actually keeping at my desk at work because I'm like, this is when I'm going to have more time to read stuff than not. I'm partway through a book called Threads, and the author's name is Amy something with a P that sounds vaguely European. Um, that's a bad description. But
Yeah.
The premise is that there's 2 points of view. There's the one girl who lives in Beijing and has been like she's an orphan and she's been kidnapped and is being like forced to work at a factory that makes purses and clothing and such that is then sent to the U.S. She manages to sneak a note asking for help into a purse, which is then found by the other point of view character, who is a girl her same age in the US, who has just lost her adopted sister to leukemia, said adopted sister being from China. And so there's this like, she feels this like obligation and this connection. She's like, this note was meant to find me. Like, I have to help this girl. So I'm only partway through. So I don't know how this is gonna play out, but I only stumbled across it because someone came looking for one of the author's other books, her newer one, which has a non-binary character in it. Actually, like it's like a romance between a non-binary character and a character who at least starts off identifying female. I don't know if that holds true through the whole thing, and I do not remember what the name of that other book is, but yeah, so there's that, and then there's just like me continually stealing books from the awards shelf that look interesting that I want to read, and not getting around to those either. So
Yeah, so it goes.
yes.
I don't know if you can hear the garage door below me
Only
going
just
now.
like it's not. We can hear you over it. So
Apparently he's struggling with it. I just texted him and asked him to stop, but I don't know that he got the message.
it's all right.
No, he definitely didn't. It's great. It's fine.
It is fine.
Yeah. So our book for this past month was Ghost by Jason Reynolds. And this has been a book that I have, once again, always like every book I read, I've been meaning to read it for ages. And as I got started, I actually realized, like, I think I did start this before, but I never made it all the way to the end. So it was really great to be able to sit down and truly read it. Jason Reynolds is just like a titan among
So
juvenile and young adult fiction authors. Yeah, he's so good. And
the voice in this, like, even like, okay, I did do the audiobook first, so like that probably helps. But even aside from that, you're just like,
yeah.
Yes, this sounds like a middle school boy. Like, you know how there are like books out that that it's like, oh yeah, this is a YA book, but like the characters sound like they're adults. Like the situation they're in might be sort of like more of a teenager situation, but you're like, no, 1 out of like every 20 teens maybe sounds that mature, and your entire cast sounds like that, and that's just isn't clicking with me.
Yeah. If you ever see interviews or like talks from Jason, he makes it so clear that like he loves and respects kids and teens, and B, like they are the people that he is writing for. So it is really, really important to him. He kind of treats it like, an honor and a privilege to be able to kind of help reflect their experiences for them on the page. And that just sort of like loving care that he puts into the language that he uses in all of his books is so evident. And you're right, it does absolutely sound like you're talking to like 12, 13-year-old boy from Um, Glass Manor was the
Yes.
name of the neighborhood that he was in. Yeah. So I always learn something new when I read a Jason Reynolds book because, like, obviously, the experiences that he writes about are very different from my own lived experiences. And I really enjoyed watching the like relationships between Ghost and the different adults in his life play out. Because you almost see more interaction with adults than you do with other kids throughout the novel,
That's
which
true.
is
Like you get the track newbies like bonding with each other, but like
mm-hmm.
the outside of school, it's like there's a couple kids that are mentioned, but like
Yeah.
they're just sort of background information more than actual people.
Yeah, and the like scenes in the cafeteria and at school are like very brief, you
Yes.
know.
Yes, it's very
Um,
un unschool focused, which is
mm-hmm.
itself a contrast to a lot of realistic fiction for kids. Like obviously
Yeah.
you have fantasy that's not going to have school scenes usually, but otherwise like it's where kids spend most of their day. But we've seen that before. We want to
Right.
see the new stuff. We want to see
Yeah,
track,
and
which
well, that and in books for kids, like usually adults are just an afterthought. Like you're in a kid's world and like the parents are just either not present or you know, are kind of like almost foils to the kids who have to, you know, be kind of sneaky and break the rules to go on whatever adventures they want to
right, they
do.
don't have like their own history, their own like. I mean, some books. I don't know that there was like any like character development from the beginning of the book to the end of the book for like the adult characters, but like, and sometimes that's pretty rare even in kids books, but we at least got to
Mm.
see like, you know, here is the character development that they went through when they were younger, and we're going to use that sort of as a reference point for Ghost.
Yeah, and you know, it's not about them so much as like their relationship with Ghost and what like these different adults in his life mean to him, you know? So like yeah, maybe Coach himself doesn't go through a transformation, but Ghost's relationship with him certainly does.
Yes.
And we see that even with oh, Mr. What's his face, the
Charles?
market
Mr.
guy,
Charles.
Mr. Charles. Yes. Like their relationship changes a little bit too, you know, like when we first meet him, their interactions are super rote. They say the same thing to one another every single day. And that's it. But by the end of the novel, you know, Ghost is really excited to pop in on him on his way to the track meet and like show off his duds and he really wanted to make Mr. Charles proud, which was so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then even like his mom, when he has the confrontation with Coach, and Coach is asking him why he did what he did, like in his internal monologue, you hear this like really kind of like in-depth care and concern for his mother, and not wanting to cause her any more trouble, not wanting to cause her any pain. And that is kind of like the core of a lot of the choices that he's made. It's like he wants to be better for her.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish we got to see like a few more scenes with him and his mom. Like, I mean, I get that part of the thing is that his mom is at work like pretty much all the time, and like they only get the occasional weekends
Right.
together. But I don't know. I guess the flashbacks, just knowing their shared trauma, is probably most like the most important detail there.
Yeah.
But Ilya, hi!
Got a resub from
Friend.
Ilya.
Hi, friend.
Thanks for those beautiful 7 months subscribed. That you possibly could be subscribed to the Zeldathon channel.
Mine is also saying I should push the button. I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's such like a good. Sorry, my brain went from the like trauma thing and then like moved on to the next step. There's such a good balance here of like, yes, this terrible thing happened to Ghost when he was younger, and it has deeply affected him and continues to affect him, but it's also totally not like his all-defining feature. Like, that's, I haven't written that much, but I feel like that is a hard balance to strike, where like, you know, you don't want to minimize that, like, oh, I need to come up with a dramatic backstory for this character, let me just like make this big revelation and like not have it actually really interwoven into the book. But also like, kids like do have some level of resilience. Like this kid likes reading the Guinness Book of World Records, and goodness if that isn't true to life. I don't know what the circulation is like at your all libraries, but those do circulate very, very well. And I love that the all the chapter titles are world record for blank.
Yep. It's like very clear that is the lens through which Ghost enjoys like reading and telling stories and all of that. Like that's his kind of internal narrative.
Yeah.
Life and world records, because that's what he reads.
Yeah. But yeah. I like that. I mean, okay, obviously this book was written about track because Jason Reynolds did in fact himself do track. But like that's such a uncommon sport to pick for kids books, and I am very glad that we get this year. Okay, fun fact, for a hot week I don't even know if it counts like on the track team that time. For some reason, sophomore year of high school, one of my friends was just like, you should join the track team. And I'm like, I don't like running. But somehow she talked me into it anyway. And like, I went to the practices that week, and it took me that long to figure out that like, wait, no, what am I doing? That was a weird factoid week in my life. But, yeah, no, like, I have a lot, like, it doesn't seem like it should be a hard sport. Like, you know, it's just running. Get good at running. You know, it's not quite the basketball is pretty obvious that like, oh, you know, there's aiming, there's like technique and stuff, and anything that involves hand-eye coordination, which I'm also bad at. But like, but then you try doing it, and you're like, oh no, this kind of sucks. So props to people who do this very regularly, very well.
Yeah, my experience with track is I did join the middle school track team in 6th grade, and I had a very different experience from Ghost. I was not a natural runner in any way, shape, or form, and I received like no instruction or attention or really like any support from the coaches on the team because they were really focused on the kids who were natural runners.
Yeah.
Yep. And I did the fields, which I was like, you know, moderately okay at. But I mean, nobody ever like tried to take the time to help me enjoy it. So for a long time, I wound up having an internal narrative that just like, I don't run, I'm not good at it, and I hate it. And it wasn't until like I started doing the Couch to 5K program like after college, because I needed a cheap way to stay active, that I like learned how to run for myself and how to like really enjoy running for the sake of running. And now, like this week, I ran 9 miles over the course of several days. Like I love to run. It's something that I do. Like it's a really great way to stay in shape when I'm not quite ready to go back to a gym yet. But it's also just like really rewarding and meditative, and there's a lot of really good stuff about it. So like I'm kind of sad that nobody tried to help me find the way to run for myself. Like I'm not fast. I'm very, very slow. I run like 15-minute miles, but I run several miles in a row, and that's okay. Yeah. Giving myself that permission to like be that slow and just keep putting one foot in front of the other still makes it very enjoyable.
Yeah, I started doing I did the first couple weeks of the Couch to 5K, and then I just got distracted and fell off. So maybe I'll try to pick that back up after we I am going, speaking of running, I'm going to pop a link in chat, which I guess maybe I'll throw in the Discord later since chat disappears eventually. There is a website called Teaching Books, which also has another version called Book Connection, which is the exact same thing, just one has an education skin on it and one has a library skin on it. But they have some interviews with authors and stuff that are exclusive to the site. And I found one that Jason Reynolds did with Ghost, and I want to read a bit about it. I could play audio, but then you wouldn't be able to hear Mags. But I think I don't know. I just think it's really cool. Okay, where did I want to pick up? So the fascinating thing about being a runner is that in order for you to be good at it, you basically have to be comfortable with suffocating. You've got to be okay with the idea of not breathing because that's what running is. Running is uncomfortable because everyone is afraid of the feeling of suffocation. You feel like you can't breathe. You feel like you're going to be out of breath and you're going to pass out. If you push forward, the body will adapt itself. Your lungs will expand and create wind for you and create air for you. Your body will adjust and your legs will continue to pump. Your muscles will get stronger and you can complete the race. And then, he kind of goes forward to talk about how that makes a really good analogy for other stuff we have to get through in life that's uncomfortable and but you can do it if you will adapt to it eventually. And I'm just okay, first of all, you have summed up why I hate running. Because just an out of breath feeling is very unpleasant, but yeah. I it does work very well for
that getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is definitely true. And I guess I was able to adapt a little bit of the mentality that you get as a swimmer, because I did swim from the time I was 4 until I was 17. I swam competitively.
Okay.
And there you really are literally suffocating. You have to hold your breath quite a bit. So I developed a really strong lung control, which I used this morning to my advantage running hills. Hills are terrible.
Oh gosh. That is one of the reasons I'm glad Indiana is pretty dang flat.
Yeah. This is the new area we have moved to is much hillier than any place I have ever lived before. And at first I was really scared of it, but it is kind of incredible how quickly you can adapt. And there's this one towards the beginning of my longer 3 to 4 mile route. There's this one really big long hill that's a half a mile of just going up. And the first day that I ran it was not a good day. I made it halfway, maybe 2/3 the way up the hill before I had to stop and walk and catch my breath. But then the second day that I ran it, I made it almost to the top. And then the third day that I ran it, I made it to the top. And then I stopped and walked for a couple of minutes, and I did that for a few more days. And then today, I ran all the way to the top of the hill, and then I kept running.
Yeah.
And it's only been like 3 weeks since I've been running here. So just like the themes, I think, are definitely very resonant, to bring it back to the book, with the resilience that I think Jason takes care to show in Ghost. You know, he's been through this incredibly traumatic experience, and when we meet him at the beginning of the book, he really hasn't healed from it yet. He talks about the internal scream that
which I feel like is a real. I mean, I am fortunate not to have been in those sorts of situations, but that just that language really hit me. I'm just like, I feel like it really communicates well, like not just anger, but also frustration, and also all of so many negative emotions that we can associate with screaming, and just all jumbled up inside and just not processed.
Yeah. And, by the end of the book, Ghost has been training and processing, and he's had important conversations. He's learned to share a piece of himself with others and trust in others to, help him bear his secret, his trauma. And I think the biggest moment for him is just when he sits on the bed in his bedroom, just something that he hasn't done since the terrible experience with his dad. And he's okay. He's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's still a little rough. It's still a little scary, but it's doable.
Yeah, and that's what healing is. It takes time, and it goes and fits and starts, and it's not linear by any shape of the imagination, but with love and support. And for me, truly, exercise is the best way to process any feelings that I'm having. If I'm having a really bad day, if I go for a run, I feel so much better afterwards. So I think it's really just wonderful that Jason Reynolds can kind of demonstrate those really positive social and emotional benefits of not just exercise, but a team sport, and sharing goals and stuff with others.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
Other than the weird week, I was never on a sports team, but I even among the Zeldathon folks, the shared goal and it bonds us. It gives us something to work towards together, and it makes us more comfortable with sharing stuff about our lives with each other sometimes. But
and helping each other bear the load. It's important stuff.
And getting all excited when everyone gets their vaccinations. So many food party emotes to the Zeldathon server. Y'all don't know.
It is worth celebrating. Because every single one of us that gets a shot is inching us ever closer to maybe being together in person.
Cross fingers, not gonna
again, or the first time ever.
That's true. I honestly forget that you have not been at an in-person marathon.
Never.
The day will come.
I haven't met any of you face to face. It will be so good. It's gonna be really weird.
I mean, the first time is weird even without this all involved. You just walk in and there's this moment of what was on the screen suddenly being in front of your face instead. You've stepped through the screen. You're like,
whoa,
I'm here.
Yeah.
Let's see what else about the book. I love that he gets so many second chances from the adults in this book. Like,
yeah.
This is a case where I'm really glad that, how do I want to phrase this? Like, these are the sorts of second chances that I feel like are very common for white boys to get, and in real life I don't think we get to see that same leniency given to kids of color usually, and I'm very glad to see a example of what that looks like here. Like, they deserve it just as much as anyone else. Sure, every once in a while you're gonna get the kid who's gonna take advantage of that, but that's true of anyone, and we shouldn't hold that against the kids who haven't been given the chances yet. So
it's so interesting that you point that out. I don't know if I've talked about this on the channel before, but I actually had a really awesome opportunity to see Jason and Brendan Kiley in person. I actually drove them in my car, no big deal. When we hosted them at a library I worked at.
nice.
Yeah, and they were talking about their book All American Boys, which, if you are not familiar, friends at home, is a book that follows two different boys, one black and one white. Brendan Kiley is white, and he wrote the perspective of the white boy, as they kind of process and move forward after an act of racial violence that targeted the black boy in the story. And this boy, when he's in the hospital, kind of finds himself suddenly at the center of a protest movement against police brutality. The other boy was a witness to the event, and so he does live in a world of privilege where he's given those kinds of second chances, and he has to kind of grapple with like what it means to him to have been a bystander in this incident, and really has to kind of come to terms with who he wants to be going forward. So it's a really powerful story, very thoughtfully told. And Jason and Brendan have kind of like a little stump speech for how they speak to communities about the book. And the way that they went through it is, first they kind of went back and forth telling their own personal stories about interactions with cops as teenagers. And Jason, unsurprisingly, he grew up in New York, and I can't remember which borough, so I'm not going to say it and get it wrong, but he has a story about getting pulled over just for like riding in a beater car with some friends, and they wind up like face down on the sidewalk and all of that for like no reason. And Brendan has a story about driving home in his parents' minivan late at night, like speeding, like reckless driving level speeds, getting pulled over, and eventually like the cop just tells him to get home safe and lets him go. And so the point of them sharing these two different experiences is like, yes, to point out how differently black boys and white boys experience law enforcement in the world. But like Brendan's point was not that like he should have wound up in the same position as Jason, but that
Jason should have been in the same position as him.
Yeah, Jason and boys like him should, like, police in the world should be telling everyone they encounter get home safely,
Right.
and giving them those chances. So that is like very much a theme that's resonant in Jason's work throughout a lot of different books. So I think it's really cool that you picked up on that in this story as well. Yeah, because he also, in his books, he he does want to represent Black teenage boys in his writing, but all of his characters are very different and have different experiences. So another part of what he does is like represent the diversity within even one demographic. So like, yeah, Rashad in All American Boys has this experience, but and like Long Way Down is a novel in verse of his that came out a couple of years ago, and that is a totally different experience about a teenage boy who is kind of like on the fringes of gang violence in the city, and like the choices that he has to face. But then Ghost is like someone so totally different from that, and he's experiencing a totally different life experience. I don't know, but it's great.
But yeah, no.
Hey, Phil. Oh no!
Oh no! Salespeople keeping you from our very important book discussion. How dare they? But no, like you're right. Like there's no. It doesn't take a lot of work to look at, you know, especially YA, and be like, there's no one white girl experience. Why would there be any one Black boy experience? Like even, you know, Black boy in the city experience. Like different cities, different neighborhoods, different life stories. Like everyone's person's life is different. That was good English, but I got my point across.
Yes. Phil's getting new windows. Excellent. That's congratulations to you and your energy bill.
Yes, Phil, we talked about the language and the voice in the book early on, and just this is a teen boy. We're sold. That I do not, you know, with our teen section is like on a separate floor from the kids section, so I don't usually interact with teens very much at work, but like the upper elementary kids aren't, you know, that much younger, and it's like, yeah, this sounds like I can hear a kid walking up to me and talking like this. That's it vibes.
Yeah, and it's not really specified, but Ghost definitely feels prepubescent. So he reminds me a lot of kids I interacted with in the children's room at my last job. Like I can absolutely see them reflected in him. And it's just middle schoolers are funny.
They are
because
hilarious.
They're so funny. They have like fully developed personalities. They have great senses of humor. But they're not quite like in that like final prepubescent phase. They're not quite like too cool yet, you know, like
or like they're starting to try to be, but like they're not quite. It's that weird, and like different kids are all at different stages too. Like you'll have the kid who is like, you know, 11 years old, but definitely already like a teenager in like attitude, next to the 11-year-old who is like more still has sort of like 8-year-old interests, and you're just like, you are the same like age, and yet you're just like
yeah. And I can see Phil saying that he could definitely see this being like a former student of his for sure. And it's certainly worth acknowledging that, you know, since we white people don't have like direct experience with this sort of life, like we like relate the characters to people that we've known, but it is absolutely worth acknowledging how popular these books are among all kinds of kids. Part of the reason that I hadn't gotten around to reading the series before is because it's always checked out.
That's a good reason.
Yeah. Kids are constantly coming to the library asking for them, and you know, just eating them all up, which is amazing. And like kids from all backgrounds too. So like Jason is just totally nailing the windows, the mirrors, and the sliding glass doors, because all different kinds of kids are getting to experience these stories from their own perspectives, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, no, I do get, I mean, I feel like just in the last few years, we've seen a lot more of, like, in the, quote, mainstream, like, award arenas, having more diverse books show up within those. Like, we've talked about a little bit about how there are the different awards. Like, yes, you have the Coretta Scott King books that are specifically for Black authors, and the Pure Belpré that are had for Hispanic and such forth. But, like, the Newbery went to an Asian American author this year. Like, that's awesome. And the the Caldecott went to a Native American, like, illustrator. Like, it's not, I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe we're a couple decades away from, like, not even really needing the, like, ethnic specific ones, because it'll all just be, like, on the same playing field. But I'm glad to see that shift happening.
Yeah, definitely. And it does not happen without intention.
Yes.
Because the threads of white supremacy are baked into all of our institutions,
yes,
including
libraries and book publishing. Yep.
Yes. And if folks don't know, the Newbery, the Caldecott, all of those children's book awards are run through the Association of Library Service to Children, which is a professional organization of librarians. So it is librarians who, for the past 70 whatever years, have not been giving these awards to diverse choices. So, it takes us coming together, acknowledging how, what's the word I want? Remiss we have been, and like making a firm commitment to really trying to apply an equitable lens and level the playing field, and using like our collective power as major purchasers of books in America to kind of put the pressure on the publishing industry to step it up.
Twist their arm. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, no, I wish
we have a lot of consumer power.
I knew how to do that better, because, like, I'm in charge of picture books now, which is actually doing pretty well, I feel like, in terms of diversity. But, like, I did have the early readers before, and, like, oh my gosh, I get the Elephant and Piggy and Mo Willems is good. I love them. But that doesn't mean that everyone in the universe now has to do two animals talking to each other in speech bubbles for their early readers.
Mo Willems changed the landscape.
Newsflash, you could do the, like, dialogue only format with human characters. It's possible.
Yeah. Oh, there goes Amber.
Oh, but
poor baby. So picture books are doing, like, pretty well in terms of representation, and especially own voices. What's not doing well, it's funny you mentioned Mo Willems, is easy readers. That was my section of the collection that I managed and purchased for, and it was a challenge to even find any books in the, like, learning to read and short chapter books that featured children of color, specifically, like, just being kids, not experiencing racial trauma, like,
right. Although I think
slavery
stories. Pretty good about.
And...
I don't know that I've run across slavery stories in early readers. they try to make those pretty mild, but once you get into the chapter books of, like, okay, cool, American Girl had Addie. It's like, can we have another black girl wasn't a former slave? Like, there are other parts of history you can pull from.
And so my last year at the last library, I only purchased diverse books for that collection. Like I straight up did not buy any books that did not feature children of color because there were none in our collection already. And so in order to, even get like the bare minimum representation for kids in that
They
area.
didn't even have Katie Wu. I love Katie Wu.
Okay, we did. Yeah, like we had Katie Wu. I had Anna Hibiscus, but she's out of print, or she was at the time.
I haven't heard the name now.
It's an older series. She's a Polynesian, or maybe Hawaiian, some sort of Pacific Islander.
American, yeah.
Pacific American girl. Anyway, yeah. So like, there's more of those that are coming out, but that particular area is way behind the curve.
Oh my gosh. I think no, because I messaged you and then I told like everyone in my department when I found the not racial diversity, but the early reader series with the girl with cochlear implants who signs and like it's just her doing stuff, and the author is like, actually the author's not just deaf, the author is blind deaf, which I was like, wow, ooh, I wonder what the writing process looks like for her. But I was just like, because it's so rare and I shouldn't be that excited because it shouldn't be that rare, but here's where
I saw an Ask Reddit thread, this is a total tangent, the other day that blew my mind.
Was it the one about how people like deaf people like speak in their heads, basically?
Yes. Someone asked what like fully deaf person's internal monologue looked like. It's like, do you hear words in your head, like hearing people?
How does that work?
Yeah, and plenty of people were chiming in saying that they like see ASL or they like see pictures instead. And then someone else chimed in and said, not even all hearing people have an internal monologue, and that blew my mind in a totally different way.
Like, I mean, I don't, like, sometimes it's not, like, actual sentences, but sometimes it is, but I don't know. And then there's the picture aspect of that. I don't think I quite have a fansia, where, like, you can't make images in your head, but it doesn't happen as automatic. Like, it doesn't happen when I'm reading books, unless I'm, like, intentionally making it happen. Which I've always been a little jealous of people who are like, it's like a movie in your head. I'm like, I don't get that. I just know what's happening.
Yeah. No, for me, it's just like a constant stream of words that never turns off. And that's why I run, is to help actually turn the voice off. Because that's what my anxiety sounds like a lot of times.
Brains,
hey,
man.
Natural, thanks
Brains.
for the lurk. Welcome. Chill in the back. One of your friends has that. The picture of red apple that went around a couple years ago blew her mind.
I don't think I saw that when it went around.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I can, but I'm not going to. It has to be intentional. Like, me reading the sentence, picture a red apple, is not going to cause the image of a red apple to appear in my brain unless I, like, choose to. Like, if that makes sense. But anyway, did we have any other thoughts on the book? Phil said he found Coach very relatable.
Oh yeah, I loved Coach.
I like he's so sassy with the kids.
Yeah, right. And I love how, we talked about how refreshing it is for a character like Ghost to be given lots of second chances. I loved that a character like Ghost was able to find and really connect with such a incredibly positive role model and mentor in Coach. Are you familiar, Trina, with the 40 developmental assets for positive youth development? Have you ever heard of that?
I think so. I do Every Child Ready to Read, but that's something else.
Yeah, no, it's research that's come out of the Search Institute, which, like, some folks have like certain quibbles with their exact framework for youth development, but essentially what it is it breaks down like the different kind of phases in child development, and like what specific set of circumstances and like what kind of activities they engage in and do help youth develop positively, whether that's cognitively, socially, emotionally, etc. And like the most important, it's called the developmental relationships framework because like the most important thing for positive youth development is positive adult relationships. And so that can come in a lot of ways. That can be parents, that can be teachers, it could be a principal if the principal cared, or it could be a coach, an after school mentor, it could be a librarian. And so it's just so exciting to see someone in a book like really take ownership of that, for a kid who's clearly struggling and needs that like little lifeboat that coach basically throws out for Ghost. It's wonderful. So big coach fan right here.
Yes. But also just the image of him, like, cruising along in the taxi, like, with the bullhorn cracks me up every time.
Oh my gosh, and the description of him is so vivid, too. What is he,
turtle is what Ghost keeps
bald
comparing him to.
The chip tooth bald turtle man. Like, you could see Coach.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he's a person who knows there are gray areas. Right, and it's not just that he's supportive for Ghost either, but like sometimes that support and love comes through like consistent discipline as well, and holding a kid accountable to their actions. So, but like Ghost responds super well to the way that Coach kind of brings things up and asks for accountability out of him. Just wonderful.
Yeah, rises to the occasion. Even when the occasion is cleaning out a real gross taxi cat trunk.
Yeah.
I sure am glad you did a stupid thing and have to clean all this up. What if we're just holding on to it on purpose? It's like, I could clean it out, or...
Maybe one of my kids will mess up and will need to clean it out for me. Well, Trina, did you have something special to share with us this evening?
Yeah, I think I got some story time, some stuff. I have still not decided which of these two I'm doing. That's a problem.
You can let Phil pick.
I'll do Norman. I like, I actually already knew this book existed before I went to the library. There was a very small collection back when I was a reading interventionalist that we had to pick from, and this was one of them. I was like, oh, it's a goldfish. All right. So.
Oh, you're flipped.
Oh, I am? Oh, yeah. No. How do I fix that?
He's Namron-Tan.
Properties. Oh, we didn't have this issue before. Unless we did and no one told me, but okay. Y'all aren't reading the words. Just look at the pictures.
All right.
We'll figure it out another time. All right. Not Norman, A Goldfish Story by Kelly Bennett. When I got Norman, I didn't want to keep him. I wanted a different type of pet. Not Norman. What am I supposed to do with this? I wanted a pet who could run and catch, or one who could climb trees and chase strings. A soft, furry pet to sleep on my bed at night. Not Norman. All Norman does is swim around and 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 around. This is it, Norman. I decide I'm trading you for a good pet. Norman doesn't move. Not even a fin twitches. How could I trade him like this? No one will want a sorry-looking fish in a gunky bowl. When I drop Norman into his nice clean bowl, he starts dipping and flipping, flapping his fins around. He looks so goofy, I have to laugh. Don't think that just because you made me laugh, I'm going to keep you, I tell him. Tomorrow, you're out of here. Norman blows a stream of bubbles. The next day, I take Norman to school with me. If I tuck him up real good during show and tell, maybe someone will want him. On the way there, we see my friend Austin. Austin has a real cool dog, and 7 puppies. Want to swap one of your pups for Norman, I ask? Who's Norman? I asks Austin. My goldfish, I say. By the time I rescue Norman, half his water is gone. Slurp, slurp. I'm sorry, I tell Norman when we get to school. I'm really sorry. He just stares at me all googly-eyed. Finally, it's my turn to show and tell. Just as I start to talk about goldfish, Emily shouts, Jenny's gone! Who let my snake loose?
Oh, no.
Does anyone hear the story of how I got Norman? Does anyone even ask to hold his bowl? No. They're all jumping and screaming and chasing the snake. Not Norman. He's looking right at me. Thanks for listening, I tell him. That afternoon, we go to my music lesson. As soon as it's over, I'm taking Norman back to the pet store. I take up my tuba and begin to play. Boom, 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 boom. I glance over at Norman. He's swaying back and forth. Glug, 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 he mouths. Look, Norman's singing, I say. Pay attention, snaps Maestro, and try to play the proper notes. Maestro makes me stay for extra practice. By the time my lesson is over, it's too late to go to the pet store. Don't think that just because you like my music, I'm going to keep you, I tell Norman. He glugs. That night, I'm sound asleep when screech, screech. What's that noise? Scratch, screech, screech. Yikes! There's something at the window. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I spot Norman. He isn't scared. He isn't swimming around in circles either. He glugs and gives me a little wave. I'm not alone. Together, Norman and I slide open the curtains. It was just a broken tree branch. Thanks for watching out for me, Norman. On Saturday, I take Norman to the pet store, just like I said I would. I look at the cats and dogs and snakes and birds. I look at the hamsters and mice and lizards, too. They all look like good pets, but they are not Norman. When I got Norman, I wasn't sure I wanted to keep him. But now, even if I could pick any pet in the whole world, I wouldn't trade him. Not Norman.
Not Norman.
The end.
Yay!
Best fish. I think that one just got a sequel recently, too. That features Norman and his unnamed friend, but I'm glad we had that one. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that lovely tale of friendship with us.
Yeah.
I don't have too much else to share today, so we could wrap up early if you...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do we have a early versus not early cutoff? I think as long as we go an hour, we're good. We've gone an hour, so.
We're good. Yeah.
So yeah. Next week is a little different. It is still a book. It's not like
next month.
Or that, yes. Not next week. I'm not. Next month. May 14th.
May 14th.
It is still a written thingy. It is adult, which we have only done once before with Fun Home.
May 15th?
15th, whichever one is the Saturday.
Great.
I have something going on the 14th, I think. That's why it's in my brain. But yeah, so if you want to get a print version of our assignment, you will be picking up How Long Till Black Future Month by N.K. Jemisin from your library, which is a short story collection. We will not do... I mean, you're free to read the whole thing if you get this. But there are actually 10 specific stories, I did not bookmark all them, that we are doing because those 10 stories are also available to read online. So even if your library does not have the physical book or you cannot get a hold of it, you should still be able to do it. I don't know if any of these are like blocked by GDPR stuff. That would be my only reason you wouldn't be able to. But even if one of them is, some other ones should be available. So there will be a Google Doc that I will drop in the Discord that will have links to all these stories. But yeah, and she is a speculative fiction writer is sort of the term, that like subgenre of fantasy sci-fi that does a lot more of like would you say it's the subgenre that's like a lot more social commentary-ish than like swords and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more like kind of reality adjacent, you know, so it's not necessarily magical, not necessarily sci-fi. At least that's my understanding of it, but I'm excited to learn more.
Yeah, no, I have not actually. I've started 5th season and not gotten very far in it, so I haven't really read Jemisin yet, and she's been on my list to get into. So.
I really enjoyed the pieces that I have listened to of 5th season so far, but just need to get further. I got out of my audiobook habit.
Yeah, maybe that can be our personal goal for the two of us, is to do 5th season in addition to this.
That sounds good.
But, yeah. Cool. All right. I don't know if there's even anyone to raid, but we can...
It seems like Zeldathon is still streaming something. Yeah, they are raising money to benefit Stop AAPI Hate, which we are definitely all about. So we should throw it over there and show some support.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for hanging out, friends in chat. Thank you, Trina, for the great conversation as always.
Thank you for joining me.
All right, and we will see y'all next month.
Yeah. Bye.
Good night.